Hello and welcome to Tokyo Inklings. My name is CY, and you can find me on tokyostationpens.com or on Instagram at tokyostationpens.
And my name is Jacob, and I'm Foodafan on Instagram, and I have a blog at foodafan.com.
And welcome. This is emergency episode 1. We've never done this before, but some big news came out just a few days ago, right, Jacob? And I'm not so familiar with it, so I'm going to be more like interviewing you or like asking you my questions, because I know you've studied a lot about this since yesterday.
Yeah, at least a little bit. So yeah, what we're trying to do here is we're trying a new format, sort of a short breaking news episode. And if this goes well, we might do more of these in the future. So let's just jump right into it. So a mutual friend of ours sent us a link earlier this week, a link to a Nikkei article. So first of all, for those who don't know, Nikkei is sort of the Financial Times or Wall Street Journal of Japan. And this article said that Sailor is being acquired by a company called Plus. And before we talk about what that might mean, let's just very briefly explain what is actually happening here. So Sailor is issuing something called convertible bonds, or CBs, which is a debt instrument, so a way of raising capital. And the difference between a normal bond and a CB is that the CB gives the bondholder a choice to convert the bond into a number of shares at a predetermined price. And in this case, the bondholder is going to be this company Plus. And if they choose to convert these CBs, which seems likely given the terms, they will become the majority shareholder of Sailor.
So, you work in finance, but some of our viewers, and myself included, aren't so familiar. So let me just get this straight. You're saying that this company Plus, they bought a bunch of Sailor bonds that they can then convert to shares. And based on the number of bonds that they have, if they convert them all, they can become the majority shareholder.
Yes.
Okay, but they're not the majority shareholder yet.
Not yet, no, correct.
Okay, now I understand. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, so that's the background. How much do you know about Plus? Have you even heard about this company before?
Well, we know that Plus collaborated with Sailor for a couple of different editions of their Pro Gears, right? So if I'm not mistaken, they did the Sakura that came out earlier this year.
Yeah.
With the two versions, the pink and the gold.
Yeah.
And they've also is the Cat Plus as well? The Cat series?
I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I think the what are they called? The White Russian?
Oh yeah.
No, that's not a cat.
Yeah.
That's not a cat. One of the cats, yeah. The Cat series. With Plus and Sailor, I think they collaborated. So they have collaborated before, and I know just by googling Plus that they are a stationery company.
Yes. So I admittedly did not know much about Plus either. So I thought it was one of those small makers that sell cute stationery at Loft and Staya, because that's how I knew it.
Right.
But it turns out that they have actually been around for a while. They have been around since 1948, and they're actually pretty big. And it's a whole group of companies. So for example, they own Nippon Notes, so the company behind the Apika notebooks. And they also own a big chunk of Askul. And I think people outside Japan may not be familiar with Askul, but anyone who's worked in an office environment in Japan is probably familiar with Askul's chairs and other office equipment. So this is a pretty big company.
Yeah. And you know what Askuru stands for, right?
I can't remember anymore.
It stands for Asakuru. So they promised next day delivery.
I see. Kind of makes sense. Yes, so Plus is a fairly big company, and it turns out that they're actually already a major Sailor shareholder. So they, since 2018, I believe, they own something like 14 or 15%. So they're not entirely new to Sailor. But if they are to convert all of these CBs, they will have more than 50% of the shares.
So sorry, is Sailor a publicly traded company?
Yes, they're listed on TSE, second section.
Okay, so I could buy some Sailor stocks and own part of Sailor.
You could do that, yeah.
Okay, so for example, Pilot, has these like shareholder gifts and stuff. Do you know if Sailor does that kind of stuff?
If they have shareholder gifts, I don't know actually.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, that was kind of a tangent. So but yeah, so they're now in a position where they could have a single company becoming the majority shareholder.
Yeah.
Now, who is the current majority shareholder?
So this Plus is actually today, if I remember correctly, they are the single biggest shareholder today at
Right.
their 14 or 15%. So they are big already, but they don't have a majority stake. So, but the question now is, why are they doing that? And from Sailor's perspective, why does this happen now? So I had just a very quick look at Sailor's latest quarterly report, try to find some more hints there. And
Right.
as you know, Sailor has two business lines. So they have stationary, which is what we're familiar with. They also have robotics. Because it turns out that they a while back they needed an efficient way of making ink cartridges, so they
Right.
developed their own robot for that, and now from that has grown out a robotics division.
Right.
So their stationary division, which we are more familiar with, is actually not doing that well. Revenue keeps shrinking, and right now they're actually losing money. It was particularly bad this year, and they blame COVID-19 for that, but they have been losing money even before COVID. But interestingly, their smaller robotics division is actually doing well, and that is sort of carrying the company right now. So as a whole, they are profitable. So I couldn't find any sort of hint that they are, in any kind of emergency. So the question then is, why are they raising money? And I don't know anything more than what's publicly available, so I can just guess. But wishful thinking would be that they have some interesting new, products coming up, some kind of product development. But I'm not sure what that would be. So what about you? Do you have any ideas what this could mean?
Yeah. So I think this could be quite huge, actually, not just for Sailor Japan, but Sailor worldwide in terms of their entire distribution network. So what we're seeing right now is, I mean, you work in finance, so you know better than me, but it looks like it's not exactly like a friendly takeover of the company. So that's what happens when companies slowly buy up shares through, as you say, CB or other means to acquire the rights, the shares of a company, and then once they hit that 51, then effectively they're the bosses. And so what we have right now is Sailor, I think they've expanded so quickly with their limited editions. They everybody and their mothers gets a limited edition ink and a pen, and you get a limited edition, you get a limited edition. I'm not sure how this affected their business. Surely it raised, in some ways, as I said, it elevated the brand for collectors and for younger people, in the sense that people want to collect these sparkly, shimmery pens. But on the other hand, it reduced their brand image with certain retailers who might not want to carry Sailor because Sailor has an image of, well, everybody has a Sailor. So again, I'm like you, I'm not privy to the information, but I think Plus, if you look at the lineup of Plus, I think that it's very clearly geared towards a more younger audience in terms of the regular stationery that they pump out. So I think that it's not particularly surprising to me that Plus is interested in Sailor and interested in Sailor's business model. So as far as I understand, I was listening to the Dromgool's Live, or maybe I read it somewhere else. But as far as I understand, Sailor's precision manufacturing isn't their strong suit. What I mean by that is, for every Rialo they make, they discard another Rialo. So their discard rate is 50% on Rialos. That is shockingly poor. Considering that the Rialo seal is not actually that good.
Right.
So, when you try to clean a Rialo, it's a nightmare because ink, the way that they've designed the piston, the ink gets like stuck between the piston and the barrel wall.
Yeah.
So I think maybe Plus sees an opportunity to improve on Sailor's processes and to turn it around. So I think Sailor would be an interesting option for Plus to acquire to really capture and dominate the writing market. And this niche market, I think Sailor has a big place, and I don't think anybody wants to see Sailor go anywhere.
Right.
Now, with that being said, I'm sure you've noticed too, but Plus actually is, of course, they're a stationery company. They make stationery, but they're also a logistics company. So they own logistics. And not only that, they're also a distribution company. And so they have their own distributors worldwide. One in particular that caught my eye was that they have a Plus of America.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
right now, Sailor is being distributed by Itoya of America.
Yeah. There was a Sailor America before, but not anymore.
Yes. My question is, let's say Plus does convert all of these CBs into shares and they become the majority shareholder. It's all speculation at this point, so don't go and quote me on a newspaper or something. But I don't see a reason for Plus to allow Itoya of America to keep distributing Sailor. Not in the immediate short term. I think they will keep their relationship in the short term.
Yeah.
But in the next 5 to 10 years, I don't see a world in which they don't switch over to their own distribution.
Right. Yeah, that's a possibility, I think.
Yeah. And I think that, actually, I think Itoya has been taking a very, very high commission from Sailor. In terms of how their distribution works. So Brad Dowdy talked about this a while ago in terms of like retail distribution network and how you need to do the margins.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if you're dealing with another company, then your margins, you have to give more of your margins, right?
Yeah.
So I work in a retail company, and our function here as a retail unit is to basically import our company's goods into Japan and distribute them into the market. So I can see a future in which Plus says, you know what, we can do the distribution more effectively and easier from our side if it's all part of the same group company. And so that's why I think this acquisition is, or not yet an acquisition, I suppose, but if it becomes an acquisition, it will be particularly interesting to see how that might also affect the prices of Sailor internationally. Could this perhaps drive the prices lower for Sailor in the US? Or maybe they keep the same and they take a higher margin. Does it mean that they increase the prices in Japan to match the prices in the US? Not really sure at this moment.
Right.
But I can say that if this acquisition goes through, I think that there will be big changes in terms of how Sailor will be distributed.
Right.
And then on top of that, I think that it will be interesting to see how a Plus-owned Sailor would manage Sailor's, let's say, limited edition game. Because I think it's clear that this limited edition thing is not really so sustainable, I think, at the price that they're doing. Because when you have like, it's economy of scale. Your prices go down when you make a lot of one thing. But if you're making limited edition runs of 50 pieces, then you don't really get that economy of scale. And for me, Sailor's limited edition strategy has kind of been it's like a shotgun strategy. They fired everywhere, hoping that it'll land them someplace to take their pen making business unit to profit, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. And I think you mentioned for the past few years, Sailor hasn't been really profitable, and they haven't really been willing to go into the more mass stationery, where Pilot is making a lot of their money. Nor are they on a small enough scale like Platinum to maintain profitability by being a smaller scale company. So, yeah, I think a Plus owned Sailor will bring interesting changes. Some changes might be welcome in the market. Others, such as the possibly fewer limited editions, I think will not be so welcome. Or I guess not welcome is not the right phrase, but people won't be celebrating it.
Yeah, and that's interesting because from just an outsider's perspective, it seems as if Sailor is doing everything right with their limited editions. On the other hand, you see that the revenue is down, so the question is how big a part of their business are these limited editions compared to these standard line models that Pilot, for example, does so successfully. Another thing worth mentioning is going back to what you said about the Realo production. So I don't know how much of Sailor's manufacturing happens at their historical site in Kure and how much, if anything, happens elsewhere. But what I noticed about Plus is that they actually have a big manufacturing plant in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, and China.
And another one in China, yes. So I think there's an opportunity here to do potentially more large scale and more cost efficient manufacturing, and that could potentially lead to either lower prices or better margins for Sailor.
Yeah, I think they definitely need better margins. And one thing that I think would be, let's say, impacted are these, as I said earlier, small batch runs. So YY Pen Club's Sailor releases, I think, could be affected. Not only that, I think a lot of pen companies in Japan right now, products are made based on, I know the president of Sailor. We go for drinks on the weekend.
Oh yes,
I think
definitely yes. Yeah. So those very small runs based on relationships formed during high school years. Yes, those may not be the most profitable ones for Sailor to do.
Yeah, and I don't think they will be allowed at a bigger company.
Right.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Do you have any bold predictions? Wait, first, do you think Plus will take over Sailor?
To me, it looks like just based on information I have that it seems as if the terms are made such that it will be very, very attractive for Plus to convert. So I assume that is the intention. I don't know exactly what it's going to lead to, but I do think that is actually in general good news for Sailor fans, because I think that means they have manufacturing of scale, more efficient business processes, and so on. And I can't imagine that Plus would and do anything negative to the brand. So overall, I think this. I hope at least that this is positive.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Plus had been a very large shareholder in Sailor.
Yeah,
and even though Sailor is losing money, they've doubled down on their investment. Right.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
I don't think this is you don't invest for charity. You invest to turn a profit. So that says to me that they do want to take over Sailor.
Yeah, I agree. So this is all very, very exciting news, I think.
Yeah, well, we are armchair analysts. So everything we say here could just be fluff, or it could be a prediction of what happens to one of our beloved pen brands in the future. So, Jacob, you got anything else to say?
The only thing I want to say is that we would love to have feedback on this kind of format, these short breaking news type episodes. We want to know if people like this and if they want more of this, because I can definitely imagine, there being more of these in the future if there's a demand.
Yep. And so how can they do that?
Well, we have our website now on tokyoinklings.com, and we're going to have one page for this episode. You go to that page and there's going to be a comment section, and in the comment section you tell us what you think of this episode and whether you want more of this.
Yep. And please, we are trying to build a kind of a community on the website, so please comment, please discuss. We find your comments and your insights very, very valuable, but a lot of you are sending us comments through DMs. So we would like you to also comment on the website so that other people can see your questions. Maybe you had a question that 5 other people also wanted to know about. So please do take advantage of the website. It's very important for us. And hopefully you will tell a friend, tell a family member, tell somebody that you know at the office that loves stationery. And hopefully it will help us grow our audience and bring more of this kind of breaking news as well as more of our regular shows to you.
Yeah.
All right, and with that said, my name is CY. You can find me at tokyostationpens.com or on Instagram at tokyostationpens.
And my name is Jacob, and I am Foodafan on Instagram, and I have a blog at foodafan.com.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.